As some of you know, I'm gluten-free, so I'll just tell you a little backstory on me. Like, I've been a health coach for the last 12 or 13 years. And before I started working with doTERRA, I used to work for an agency who we weren't affiliated with one company's product. We just were herbalists and nutritionists that gave people health coaching advice. And so my department, where I was the specialist for the dietary changes and Candida healing. And the reason for this is because I have had to be on this journey myself. I've been on a gluten-free diet for about 15 plus years. So a good chunk of my life has been gluten-free, and it's because I had a lot of health problems. And so I'm just gonna pull up my slides here so I can help myself stay on track. So last night, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because last night I ate a little bit of cake because I was having a potluck at a friend's house. And I woke up this morning feeling horrible. I was like, why did I eat that cake? I know better. And it's one of those things where I had a lot of health problems, but I was going to the doctor and nobody knew what was going on. And nobody ever said, try a gluten-free diet. I had to find that out on my own. I literally spent thousands of dollars on procedures and tests and herbs and supplements, just trying all this random stuff. And the last thing that I decided to try was just going gluten-free. And it solved all my health issues that I was dealing with. And so I've been on this path for a long time, and believe me, it's not easy because it's in everything. So it takes a lot of diligence and strength to walk this path. But once you do it and you start to feel better, it's worth it. And to me, I'm like, that cake was not worth it. How I feel now, it's just you have to get to a point where, you can rise above that. And whenever I eat gluten or refined sugar, I'm just no wonder why people are so sick in this world. So I personally think that gluten and refined sugar are Satan, okay? I'm just gonna come right up and say it. Gluten for me equals Satan. And it really is called Satan, so it's kind of funny. But so I just want to challenge some of you, if you're listening to this and you're if you have any disease or illness or health complaints or medical problems that you've been dealing with, I challenge you to take a break from eating gluten and refined sugar and just notice if you feel any different. The thing is about this is a lifestyle pathway. It's not you just quit for a couple weeks and then you're okay, I feel better, but I'm gonna go back to eating it, right? Once you commit to it, you can't go back. There's no going back. And so that's the challenging thing that I think a lot of people really hesitate to take that leap. What I noticed for me, that eating gluten, it's not only going to affect on physical levels, but it also affects psychological levels. And it's because it works on the dopamine receptors in the brain. So it's going to give you a natural high when you eat it. That's why a lot of times if you eat bread or pasta, you feel amazing. And I know it's the holidays and we're eating a bunch of crazy foods, so not to layer on the guilt, but I just want to build this awareness so perhaps you can make some healthier choices at some of your gatherings. But it can affect you on psychological levels, just really keeping you trapped in the same emotional patterns. For me, and this morning was such a big thing. I was whoa, this really affected my emotions and my just mental stability. So it's so interesting, and it does cause that dopamine receptor crash. So, you miss out. The thing about gluten-free, it's that's wheat, right? Or rye and spelt. Those are gluten. So you miss out on pasta, bread, pretty much all desserts pastries and cakes. burgers with the bun, you know, and some places are starting to cater to gluten-free people. So I always recommend at restaurants, like, ask about their gluten-free options just to even build awareness. So one benefit of, I mean, besides feeling healthy on all levels of physical and emotional, but, you know, a lot of people have these like weight loss goals for the new year. And, you know, one thing that gluten-free diet will do is it'll help you naturally lose weight. And that's one thing, comment that I always get, like in my family, even a lot of people are overweight. Like I'm one of the rare people that has like a small frame. And people ask me all the time, they're like, how do you stay so thin? Like, what do you do? And I'm like, just go on a gluten-free diet. I promise you'll lose like inches by doing it. But do people ever stick with it? Not always so much. So the reason why gluten-free diet is so important and getting out of the refined sugars, the refined carbs, and you could even go as far as to go like dairy as well as animals that have antibiotics, is that it causes Candida to grow. And Candida is a fungus that's in our digestive tract, and it's supposed to be dormant in us, like while we're alive. And it's only when we die that the Candida will deteriorate our body. Like it's one of the things that causes the decay of our tissues. And it's not really meant to be active in our body while we're alive, right? Like there's certain sugars that are released into the system once we die. But the problem with our modern world is it's causing this crazy Candida overgrowth in our body. And so the growth is encouraged and proliferated by our standard diet. So yeah, the simple carbs, basically gluten, sugar, dairy, and animal products that have antibiotics used, it feeds the Candida. So you're literally giving it food every time you go and eat your pastry and your desserts and your pizza and your, you know, your things, and you're like, oh, it's like, you know, you feel guilty. You're like, oh, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. And it's because you're literally feeding the death molecules in your body. And then what ends up happening on top of that is we have overused prescription antibiotics as well as steroids in pharmaceutical practices. And so that just wipes out all of the good bacteria. And now there's no good bacteria in your gut, so then the Candida multiplies even more because you're feeding it all these foods, right? So since there's no good bacteria, then that's part of what makes up the walls of our intestines, right? It's like we have like this tube, and then it's surrounded with all this good bacteria, but then that gets wiped out. And so it makes the wall of the intestine compromised. And so this is going to cause leaky gut syndrome is what we call it. And basically toxins that are in your colon that are trying to exit out of your body get released back into your bloodstream, and they actually leak out of the intestinal tract because of that lack of that good bacteria. And so as these toxins are circulating in the body, then it's going to weaken the immune system. It also affects the neurological system, so it can cause like ADHD and hyperactivity, which is so interesting and such a common thing that we deal with. And I feel like whoever links that back to Candida, very, very few doctors will ever go that route. And this cycle keeps happening over and over. It doesn't just happen once. This did not happen overnight. This is a lifelong process. And then it creates infection and illness. And then what Candida basically does is it goes to wherever there's a weakness in the body. So if you have like a genetic weakness in your heart or your liver or your brain, then it's just going to go there, and it's going to colonize into those areas and basically create disease. So a lot of the diseases that people experience in our modern day world are Candida based. Like they say that Candida is the root of all disease. The other thing that I wanted to, so it's like we have this world that we've inherited, basically, that is still healing from the trauma of war, as well as unhealthy eating. And then we have this onset of modern food and pharmaceuticals piled on top of it. And then we have this crazy Candida growth. So sometimes people are like experiencing like these different symptoms. Like they'll be like, oh, I have like a skin condition. Or, you know, sometimes it'll come out of the skin. And it can be various different kinds of things like eczema or different mystery skin conditions. It could be like digestive problems. It could even be like pancreatic problems, asthma, anxiety, irritability, you name it. Yeah, fungal infections, allergies, acne. It can affect the heart too, so if there's irregularities there. Headaches, night sweats, like learning disabilities, all of those are symptoms of a Candida overgrowth. Crazy, right? Like so many diseases, basically. And even, you know, things as intense as cancer, all of them are based in Candida fungal overgrowth. And this is very overlooked by modern medicine. They never do that, right? They just treat like the symptoms. They're like, here, well, let's radiate you. Let's kill even more of the good bacteria, instead of just first treating the Candida and really addressing that lifestyle base, because once that's taken care of, it's so much easier for the body to heal itself. And, you know, and this is just part of the way our medical system is set up. I found this really great quote that I resonated with. It's like, doctors are people who pour drugs that they don't really know much about what those drugs are, and they use them to cure diseases, and they don't know much about those diseases either and what causes them. And then they pour those drugs into human beings and they know nothing about that person. They haven't even asked you about your lifestyle, your diet, right? Like your wellness activities. So this modern, or this evidence-based kind of like modern medicine that we have like at our hands is not really taking into accountability like epigenetics. And so epigenetics are a big part of how our cells express themselves, right? It's like we have our DNA, but then the epigenetic behavior will influence how our cells react. And all of the studies that people are discovering really show that our epigenetic, like our cellular expressions, can be modified by thoughts, perception, belief, environment, diet, and behavior. So our epigenetics will determine like who we are and how we're going to respond to disease, what we are, what we will become. So I really view like epigenetics as like the missing link in our medicine, and it's really like the quantum field, kind of like all that you are, and really accessing that and taking command. Because once you understand this, then it becomes so much easier to see how energy can transform matter, and how, you know, we can manage like diseases that come our way by modifying our lifestyle. So with epigenetics, basically what this is saying is genes control 70% of everything. And so what this means is that any pathology or illness or inherited thing that we have can be managed and prevented through our lifestyle changes. So this is a lifestyle change. This isn't just an herbal regimen that you take for a few days. So 70% of our aging, our illness, and all of our suffering are basically going to come down to 3 areas. And this is nutrition and exercise, environment, and your social and spiritual reality. And if you can start to modify some of these key areas, then this is going to change how your genes are expressing themselves. And everybody's different, so this could take years for some people. Like some people will be on this path and not really notice a significant change in like their brain health or whatever it is you're dealing with it could take you like 6 years. Like when I started the gluten-free path, it probably took me like 6 to 8 years to feel healthier again and to feel like I regained my digestive health. Okay, so this is that lifestyle thing. It's like, how are you living? So basically the way you want to live is eat less crap. So crap is the acronym for that is carbonated drinks. Get them out of there. No more soda. Just stop it. Or all those weird energy drinks too. Get them out of there. Refined sugar. So just, read your ingredient labels. Like if something has artificial sweeteners or refined sugars in there, just start to become more aware of how much of that you're putting into your body. You also want to avoid artificial coloring, which is in a lot of stuff. Basically, all processed foods are in that crap category. So what this, if you're going to eliminate the crap out of there, then what this causes you to do is to eat more actual food. This means cook for yourself. Don't go out to eat all the time because you don't know like what's in there. Don't go for those quick options. Just stick to fruits and veggies, organic lean proteins, omega fatty acids, drink lots of water. I really feel that those of us who are using and working with the essential oils are kind of like right at the forefront right now, because the optimal diet for humans is going to change over the next 10 years, truly. And we're seeing that emerge a lot more. And I really think that what's happening in the world today, and a lot of the clear cutting of the forests and the changing of like our biology on this planet, like we're going to have to change along with that. And it's so needed. Like we shouldn't think that the human diet has to be this like specific thing always. It's always changed as the environment around us that we create changes. So much of our species' solution to a lot of the planetary problems that we're dealing with is really getting back to that epigenetic toolbox. What are we putting into our body? And to start to take command on a more personal level, a more conscious level of, not supporting these nasty corporations that make all these processed, like chemical-based foods, and sometimes it can cause things to be more expensive to go the organic route. But it's, this is a big part of how our genes are going to express ourselves. So it's non-negotiable in my mind. And, another thing too is like so much of the people on our planet are really sick, and people don't always have access to this knowledge and this information about Candida. And, I see a lot of people like dealing with cancer, and I just wish that like I could just like tell them and share all this information, but that's why I'm telling you today, because we can create hope for people. Hope changes everything. And I think that once people understand our relationship with the plants and our relationship with the products that we put into our bodies, it's going to create a huge shift planetarily, and just give people hope and empowerment that we can change this and we can shift. Okay, well, thank you for letting me share this topic that's so dear to me with you. And yeah, I'm just really grateful to be a part of this change, and I hope that some of this information just helps you with your own dietary choices and your own wellness. So with all of that being said, I just want you to close your eyes for a moment, and I want you to think about what is one to two things that you want to try to eliminate from your diet in the new year. So was there anything on that crap list that could be eliminated? Or maybe you're eating lots of sugar. What kind of dietary shift do you feel is going to be really important for manipulating like how your genes are expressing themselves? Maybe it's drinking too much coffee. So don't judge yourself, just notice. And just remember, these changes don't happen overnight. Like, I didn't just suddenly become gluten-free. It was a process. It took months, even years, safe to say, to really transition. So we just start slow, baby steps. And if you feel that your diets, if you're on top of your game and you're really healthy right now, then I want to ask you, what do you need to bring in? Like, if you're not eating any crap, like, what do you need to bring in then? What could help you take it to the next level with your health? What would up level you? Perhaps it's like taking a vitamin supplement every day, or just committing to drinking more water and carrying your water bottle around. Maybe some kind of herb, you know, like stocking up some herbs in your medicine cabinet and your oils so that you can really like take that cellular health to the next level. So just jot it down, type it in the chat if you want to. I'm going to check the chat here. And then I also wanted to check in